Basically, what I want to cover today is a key component, right, to being successful as a private label seller is being able to negotiate successfully with your Chinese sales reps. So I'm just going to cover a few things here. So if you're just initially contacting, right, a sales rep on Alibaba, just understand, for the most part, these folks are younger. They may be right out of college. They're kind of the low-level employees, maybe just kind of like right above the factory workers. Oftentimes, they may not stay very long at the company they're at. It's a job that, tends, from what I've seen, a lot of transitions. But for the most part, again, if you're just contacting a supplier from Alibaba, you're going to be dealing with a younger Chinese person. So that's good and bad. The good part is most of them understand English fairly well. And so all of my contacts, as soon as I make contact with the company, if I'm on Alibaba, I'll ask them for their Skype ID, and then I transition the conversation to Skype. I do this because Skype is a lot better at saving the conversation, at archiving it, than if you were to just use Alibaba chat. So that's my first tip. If you found a product you think that might be a good product to sell on Amazon, you go to Alibaba, you find it there, make contact with the manufacturer, right? Then I go through Alibaba chat, but then as soon as I get a hold of someone, I say, hey, do you have a Skype ID? Can we continue our conversation on Skype? And so then we move it immediately to Skype, right? Skype, again, does a pretty good job at saving the conversation. The reason why you want to save it is because you want to go back and you want to remember, right, the price that maybe they quoted you at, as far as, the sample, or as far as, when you get ready to place the big order, they'll usually give you a quote. Now, what happens is when you go to Skype, because, again, remember, they're a low-level sales rep, you'll ask them, how much price per piece if I order 1,000 units. And then they'll generally say to you, okay, hold on a second. And usually that second is about 20 or 25 minutes, because then they go to their manager and they say, hey, I have someone here. He's interested in getting 1,000 units of this. What's the price per piece? They'll usually come back 20 or 25 minutes later, and they'll give you that initial price per piece. What I then do, if it's within a ballpark range and the margins are good, I'll say, okay, that sounds good. Can I get a order? Can I get a sample placed today? I would like to place a sample order today. And for the most part, you can do that. Now, when you place that sample order, a lot of times it's going to cost $100, maybe $125. They tack on some extra fees because they want you to know, they want to know that you're serious, right? And so a lot of people will complain that first, start contacting manufacturers on Alibaba, be like, man, that sample costs so much. Well, the reason why it costs so much is because that factory is trying to vet you to make sure that you're a serious seller. Now, what they will do is, though shipping will probably be like $30, $35, and the rest of that they'll minus from your first large order, all right? So that's just part of the process. To get that sample, which is super important, you're going to have to pay a little bit, but then they will deduct that from your first order, all right? And so I'll get that sample placed, they'll ship it, I see it, and if I like it, then I go back to them, and then I'll start negotiating, all right? And I put a post in the group, super important. You guys, like when you're negotiating with the Chinese sales reps, you want to try to use words, right, that they use, that they understand, all right? And so I put this in the Facebook group. Here's some real powerful words that Chinese sales reps and their managers are going to understand. When you use words like working together, when you use words like supporting each other, cooperation. Cooperation is a huge one, all right? I pepper all of my conversation with my Chinese sales reps with mutual cooperation. They like it. It's just a word that they eat up, and it's one that you want to use. I use relationships a lot. I'll use loyalty, lasting partnership, mutually favorable, beneficial to both of us. Our good fortune, right? It's another just kind of phrase that they really like. And then kindly. Kindly is almost like thank you. So in all of my transactions, all my emails, correspondence, right? Thanks for the likes there. Appreciate the love. Make sure everyone's staying awake, not falling asleep, because talking about this kind of stuff does kind of make you sleepy, right? Especially on Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Who wants to talk about using right words, in emails or on chat or in Skype? So Leron says right there, working hard, let's build up a great business together. Super important. And when you use those kind of words, right, it is going to help you when you negotiate. And so they'll come back, right? And I know what they initially told me. It was 1,000 MOQ at this price. So if it's a factory that I'm working with for the first time, this is what I'll say to them. I'll use all those words, right, that I just said. And I'll say, look, I really want to cooperate with you. I want this to be mutually beneficial. However, for our first order, we would really like to place 500, an order of 500 instead of 1,000. And if this 500 is really good, the quality is good, then we look forward to placing many more larger orders for our next orders. And a lot of times they'll come back and they'll say, nope, my manager said it has to be 1,000. Depending on where you are at, right, in your importing and private labeling process, this is what I tell new folks who a lot of times maybe have a little less capital. If you are willing to hammer away using all those words I just gave you, I have never heard anybody come back and say that the factory wouldn't be willing to lower the MOQ. However, sometimes it will take up to 2 weeks, right, of you every night Skyping them and saying, hey, look, man, I really want to order this product. I really want to have a lasting partnership. But for this first order, my boss, and your boss may be your spouse, and maybe your wife, right? It may be your husband, whoever it is. Just say, but my boss is adamant. He will only let me order 500, right? If you're willing to do that for 2 weeks and just continue to hammer away, right, and email away with that sales rep, every single time I've done that, it is not, usually it'll happen within a week. Sometimes I've had to go all the way for 2 weeks, like 10 days straight. They will always come back and say, okay, for this first order, we're willing to place a MOQ of 500. But again, understand that during that whole time, I'm building a relationship with them. I'm using those key words that I just shared with you. So it's not like you can just say, I want to order 500 and you drop it. They'll come back and they're going to say no, right? They're not going to do it. But if you're willing to email them, if you are willing to chat with them, right, for 2 weeks straight, they will come down. I don't understand, right, the whole culture piece, but I do know that, they call it guanchi, the relationship piece, the relationship building is huge, all right? So, yeah, so Linda says persistent pays off. That's absolutely true. So if you really think that you found a winning product, but you're a little nervous because it's the first time you've dealt with this manufacturer, then build that guanchi for 2 weeks, right, with that sales rep, asking them to please go back to his manager. And when they see that you're persistent like that for 10 days, they will, from my experience, 100% of the times, they will lower that original MOQ. So, once you place that first order, if you really like the product, then you can go back to them, for the second order and say, hey, I'm going to place 1,000. However, then you can negotiate on price sometimes. Price is a little more difficult, right? For the most part, Chinese, if it's the factory, all right? And again, you got to be careful because when you're on Alibaba, about 60%, right, of the people on Alibaba are trading companies. You don't want a trading company most of the time, right? You want to try to deal directly with the factory because that's where you're going to get the best margins. Hey, shout out to Mikey Shattuck. What's happening, Mikey? So if you know Mikey at all, he is on Facebook Live. Good to see you, Mikey. Mikey and I did a video course together on private labeling. He is a pro photographer and a and I would call him an internet expert. So good to see you, Mikey. So that's how I do it, right? That's how it's worked out for me. Again, going back to just be careful. You don't want to deal with a trading company. So you want to do your homework and make sure that the company you're dealing with is the actual factory, because that's how you're going to get the best possible margin on your product. All right. So use those words, people. Make sure, check it out. That's how you are going to build your guanchi. That's how you are going to get the best possible price. And if you need a lower MOQ, that's how it's done. So that's really all I had. If anybody has any questions at all, feel free, put them in here. When I post it on Facebook, same thing. If you have questions at all about sourcing, finding products, about launching your product, about ranking your product, about what review groups that I use, feel free to ask them there in the Facebook group, and I'll try to answer them. If I don't answer them, I know that a lot of other people that are very knowledgeable about private labeling will answer them as well. If you've not got your first product yet, my question is why? Please tell me why. Get your product in. Look, even if it's just a bundle, right? Do the work, put a bundle together, because you know what? That's laying the foundation for what you're going to need to do when you get your private label product. You guys know, I tell people all the time, there's still great money to be made in bundles, but you know what? People don't do them. People don't do the work. We helped another seller that's in our mastermind. We loaned her $600. She did a phenomenal back to school bundle, and she sold out like 2 weeks before the prime time selling season of back to school. And so bundles are the way to go, right? Think about some Halloween bundles. Think about some Christmas bundles. Think about, upcoming in the spring Easter bundles, because they work, and that's great preparation, right, for our private label products. All right, so I have gone about 15 minutes now, and that's about all I want to do for my shows on Wednesdays. Thanks a lot, you guys, for hanging out. Keep on keeping on. The prime selling season is just around the corner, right, where sales are going to skyrocket. So you want to get your inventory in. We are in an inventory-based business. The only way you and I make money, right, is by getting our inventory into the Amazon warehouse. So if you got inventory around your house, right, stop what you're doing. Don't source anymore. List it, tape it, ship it into Amazon, and get it in. There's too many sellers I talk to that say they build up massive amounts of inventory at your house. And you know what? You're not making any money if that inventory is at your house, if it's in your garage, if it's in your living room, if it's on your dining room table. Your spouse is probably getting angry at you, right? So get it out of your house, get it into Amazon. That's the beauty of Amazon FBA. And do it, whatever you got to do, right? Dig down deep and get that inventory in, because pretty soon you're going to be so busy sourcing, you're not going to have time, right, to get that inventory in. If you have a graveyard pile, that's what I call my pile of returns, or things that I need to go through and figure out if I need to pitch them, donate them, or send them back into Amazon. If you got that graveyard pile and it is building up, deal with it, right? Don't put it off anymore. Deal with your graveyard pile. Get it into Amazon. I actually just did that a month ago. You're not going to believe this. When I listed everything, I had $1,500 net, right, that I was going to make off of the products that were in my graveyard pile, and I finally decided to deal with it and get it into Amazon. So, and I'm sure a lot of you are in that same boat that I am. In fact, I'm trying to work on a way where I can have my return sent somewhere else so that I don't have to deal with them anymore, because I don't deal with them efficiently enough, right, and turn them around quick enough to make it worth my time, and I want to be able to do that. So deal with your graveyard pile if you got one. All right, so hey, that's it. You guys have a great Wednesday. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me. Thank you so much for being in this Facebook group. You guys know I'm so appreciative of so many sellers that have helped me out, that continue to encourage me. One of them is right here, Leron Hirschkorn. For the last 6 months, This guy right here has probably helped me out more than any other seller on Amazon. I appreciate the relationship and the friendship that I have with him. Our hope always is that we help you guys out with great information. And if it's not great information, at least we hope that it's great motivation to help you continue to build your Amazon business. Because I still believe, folks, that we are just at the beginning. I still think that the rocket ship is just taking off when it comes to selling online. So, you know, if you believe yet, if you've got to that point, you know, what is it? Shrek sings that song, I believe, I believe, I believe. If you're at that point, right, then just know that you are in good company, because there are many of us, and you know that if you're in multiple Facebook groups that believe the same thing, that this is a great business. You just have to be able to put in the time, you put in the effort, and you're going to see the results. All right? So that's it. Thanks a lot, you guys. Have a great Wednesday. And remember, build that guanxi with those Chinese suppliers. Use those words: lasting partnerships, mutually favorable, beneficial to both of us, our good fortune, kindly, right? Those are all power words for the Chinese. Thanks a lot, you guys. Have a great day.